This is This Week in Perspective with me, Adam Simbeya. On the 16th of June, Africa celebrated the Day of the African Child. That's the international one. And on the 11th of October, world again celebrated this is the other way around. The world celebrated the UN International Day of the Girl Child. Tanzania joined the rest of the world to mark these two important days. So with the theme, of course, accelerating protection, empowerment, and equal opportunities for children in Africa by 2030, and is celebrated in memory of the uprising in Soweto, South Africa, during which students marched in protest against poor quality of education were massacred by the then apartheid regime. The African Committee of Experts on the Right and Welfare of the Child is concerned especially at the perverse effect of conflicts and crises on the girl in Africa due to her vulnerability and other related issues that affect the girl child. Today we shall try to focus on the violence against children, early marriages and early pregnancies situation, even in times of peace. To discuss this topic with me today, I'm joined by four very capable professionals, panelists. On my right is Deogracias Moshi, who is from the Pioneer Communication, a very important journalist, and he writes as a columnist in the Sunday News. There was a piece he wrote about this same topic last Sunday. Next is Jasmika Milovanovic from Save the Children Fund. She's a regular participant on this program. Next is Dr. Rose Shayo from the Institute of Development Studies, University of Dar es Salaam, and a researcher. Her interest, of course, gender issues as well as the girls and not necessarily the boys. Last but not least is Benedict Misami from a long ministry, but I always take the shortcut, Ministry of Women, Gender and Children, which is part of health, whatever. But he's also a regular program on participant on this program. He's, I understand, are you still the assistant director or you're already director?
No, assistant director.
Oh, one of these days you'll be director. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program again.
Thank you.
We apologize for a bit of delay, but we understand what it is. So, before we dwell into the discussion for the next 5 minutes, I think let us put the two celebrations in perspective, and I would ask Jasmika to explain what are the similarities, if not the differences, between the United Nations International Day of the Child and the Day of the African Girl Child. What's the relationship?
Let me start by saying both of them are child rights key days and key dates, and we all celebrate them in Tanzania. When I say we all, that means academia, that means Ministry of Health, Community Development, Gender, Elderly and Children, the long one, as you said. Yes. UN agencies, UNICEF in the first place as the child rights organization, also all other partners and the media. And I think that, we shouldn't forget about the children themselves, we shouldn't forget about parents, communities, professionals in terms of health, education, social welfare, community development. They all are helping us to mark the day, which is the first one, Day of the African Child, 16th of June. You rightly pointed out, it's about all of us trying to go back to what has been done in Tanzania, what has been done across Africa, how far we've gone in that fight to be as prosperous as we can as a society, what is waiting for us, how could we make sure that Vision 2025, which is the government platform, National Plan of Action, Violence Against Women and Children, which is something that is again national platform when it comes to the Ministry of Health, Community Development, Gender and Women and Children, but also all other relevant ministries within the umbrella of the government of Tanzania. How could we all play our part, and how could we all commemorate Day of the African Child, having as much as possible sustainable, good initiatives aiming at the children and their welfare. So that's the Day of the African Child. I think that it's child rights, one of the key child rights dates. On the other side, we have International Day of the Girl Child. Relatively new, because you said in the introductory part that Day of the African Child started to be commemorated back in 1976. International Day of the Girl Child started to be commemorated back in the 90s. So it's relatively new, 25 years old. It's a date when we actually go back to the girls, to the issue of girls' discrimination, to the issue of girls' inequality, and how could we make sure that girls become prosperous, girls become agents of change, we have decent education and protection for children, girl children. We also have male involvement, we also have boys supporting girl children, and we have some good plans and budgets that could support us in our efforts to see improvements in terms of girls' rights.
What role does Save the Children Fund play in these two?
In both,
or you focus on the one in Africa?
Yeah, I mean, these are just 2 days. There is another day, which is UNCRC, United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child Day, which is the global universal child rights day, and we celebrate that day on the 20th of November. And there are also other days that we celebrate, but without going into a long list of days that are part of our policy and advocacy planner. We are International Child Rights Organization.
When you say
we means Save the Children, yes. And we work on protection of children, on education of children, and we also work on health and nutrition. We work on child rights governance, on poverty issues, and we try to support the efforts of the government in Tanzania and in all other places where we are operational. And in doing that, we need to work with the media, as I said, with the government, with the academia, with children, first and foremost, because without children and their participation, we can't really help them and support them. And it's not about just us, responsible adults working for children. It's also about giving children a space to act as the agents of change.
Okay. Dr. Rose-Shayo, I was going to ask, is there justification for Tanzania to mark these 2 days? And then you can also cover this, respond to this. What is the status of the girl child in Africa, and especially in Tanzania? Very quickly.
Okay, thank you so much. As already said by the previous speaker, during these international days for the African child, and in particular for the African girl, we get an opportunity to go back and review what is happening to African children, Tanzanian children, and in particular the girls. And we review where are they coming from, what are they going through, and we raise the awareness. So as she said, there are many actors involved, and through the analysis of the situation of these children and the girls, we raise issues for policy making, for advocacy, and more important, the issue of education. When you want to understand the African child or the African girl child, we all know that statistically, the population of Africa and the population of Tanzania, children are more or less 1/3. They are having a big share in terms of the population. And when we are talking about the African child, we are talking about children at different levels in terms of ages, in terms of schooling, in terms of social status and the like. So when we organize this day, as already said, many actors are involved and they target different categories of children wherever they are, and we get now to know what is happening to the specific children and even specific girls. Like you already said, we as academia, we do research on children, and we are able to choose a certain theme, and we are able to get to know a lot of what is happening to them. Like for us, this year we did a research on gender-based violence for children in primary and secondary schools, and we were able to identify a lot of issues on the causes and the effects and impacts of gender-based violence to the children, both boys and girls, but more on the girl child. So as you are saying, in terms of statistics, we noted that much as all children, African children or Tanzanian children, are suffering from the different forms of violence, but the girls are harder hit than the boys. So in that respect, now using those statistics, we are able to influence kind of policy change. We know there are quite a number of policies and even laws that are there to support kids, but we've been able to use these days to identify what are their needs, what are the challenges, and we are using this as a platform to raise the awareness to the different actors who are involved, to the parents, to the government, to the NGOs, that these are now the key issues affecting our children and even the girls. Because when you talk about a child, we are also talking about boys and girls. And some people want to wonder why now the girl child. And this is very interesting because we parents, we policymakers, we all also know that when we are making policies, we are also putting the faces and even the ages and the context, and we're able to come up with different packages for different segments of the children. But I must admit, it's a big challenge because from my research when I was doing issues of gender-based violence, it was interesting how people debating on age, especially when we talk about early pregnancies, and say we are saying teenage pregnancy. They say these are not teenagers; these are girls. If they can bear pregnancy, these are big girls. So we don't talk about teenage pregnancy, but maybe we should say early pregnancies, because teenagers, if they can conceive, then they are mature enough. So there is a debate on the definition of who is a child, and the men are saying, no, you don't. How do I go with a child? These are mature enough. These are big enough to
big women.
If they can even they can dare to talk to a big man like me, these are not children. So there is a contentious issue on the definition when you are talking about African children. We need to define them. And it was also interesting in another level when I was doing a research, and I was also asking about the rights. And in that particular society, they were saying a man, even when you are 60 years old and you are not circumcised, you belong to a child. You cannot belong into the society of men who are making decisions. So that's what I'm saying. It's a bit tricky when you are talking about African child. And even when you go to the definitions, it varies from one context to another. Maybe in some parties they will say 40, 45, these are children. In the Constitution, 18. When it comes to the rights, girls of 14 are allowed to get married. They love marriage. So it's a contentious issue that we need really to come up with one common definition, which is practical.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a response to that specific concern from Bernard representing the government. But very quickly, do you share the findings of your research with all the stakeholders, and what has been the response?
Yeah, for this particular research, We were asked to do a research by NGOs, that is TENMET, Tanzania Education Network, and also we've done with the Tanzania Gender Networking to get to know issues related to gender violence and many others. But after the collection of the data, we normally organize a stakeholders workshop where we invite those people who shared those ideas, and we present the report and they kind of validate them.
Yes.
Because as we said, there are some issues which they're required to do in order to deal with those problems or issues that were raised. So it's a two-way process in the sense that we go, we ask the questions, there are also some issues too for the government to take action, and we leave them now at the level of the schools when they are revising their programs and what have you. They also get issues to push to the government. And on this issue of violence, one of the issues which came forward was the issue of religious education. Because of the way gender-based violence is on the increase, people are thinking, where are the morals? What has gone wrong? And people are saying, maybe in the past, the religious teachings had some contribution on the girls, on how to behave, the morals, the do's and the don'ts. They thought, because of people's beliefs, maybe if we put a religion back, it can enable the girls and the boys to know their limits. Yeah. So that is one of their recommendation. And some of those policymakers who are there from the Ministry of Education, they say, indeed, we have those, we have that subject. And now the question is, if it's not taught, we need to know the curricula and even to push it, because the issue of morals is falling down, because
it's different from ethics, isn't it? So the emphasis on morals here rather than ethics.
It's morals, it's ethics, it's everything connected to sexuality. Because if you bring the issue of sexuality again, there's also a debate on what are you teaching the kids. Yeah. So sometimes sexuality is wrongly interpreted to mean that we are now empowering the girls to
go out and misbehave.
Yes. So.
Thank you. Ben, I'll come back. I hope you can still recall the questions which Dr. Shaya has raised. But let me ask Deo Mushi, who is participating for the first time, and thank you very much. Now, I don't want to be more specific in asking whether the issues we're discussing today, how does the media treat these? I mean, is it serious or it's not serious?
Thank you, Mr. Simbe. I think the media has really been playing its part in making sure that the rights of the children are talked about. And we were in Tanga in June this year for our annual editors forum.
Yes.
And one of the subjects that we addressed during that particular time was how the media could participate in really sensitizing the public to adhere to the rights of the children. Unfortunately enough, during our meeting, we had also invited the UNICEF team, and they presented a paper there, and it was really a very nice paper. And after the meeting, we sat down and we really brainstormed to see what could we really do after what the UNICEF had said about the situation.
What we could do in the media?
What could the media could do? Eventually, we ended up forming a committee that this year is going to look at the rights of the children. Okay. We have a one-year program that's going to be supported by the UNICEF, and we are really mainly focusing on how the radio could really play part in making sure that at least the radio speak about the rights of the children. And it is going to be a one-year program, and both the print and the local media, and whenever necessary, we also use the social media. So in few days from now, I think after a week or so, we're going to have the first meeting in Morogoro region, where we are going to have we have selected a good number of radio stations to be presented during that meeting. And what we have tried to look at is, there is a big space in the radios, in most of the radio stations, especially the community radio stations. If you were a keen listener to a radio, you will find that from afternoon to around 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yes.
There's a lot of music going around there.
Just music.
And that music, we consider it not being very relevant to the children. And at times, it misleads if it doesn't have a very good protagonist leading that program. So we are meeting with these representatives from radio stations to try to find out how could we use this time that really goes without being used effectively.
Yes.
So we want to inject issues related to child protection during the day to make sure that at least there is ample space for the coverage of the child.
All right, that's very interesting. That's very interesting, and I think the media has decided to play a significant role in this. Now, Ben, while you are answering the question of, if you can still remember, Dr. Shayo, I want to combine another question for you. So it depends which one you want to answer first. We have been celebrating or marking these days for subsequent years for a long time. Have these celebrations led to a decline or indeed a reduction of violence against children, especially the girls?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's true that we have been celebrating these all two events, in fact, in a year. And this time we're also in Tarime, also celebrating a day of girl child. And where my minister also launched a campaign, a 5-year campaign, on how girls also can understand and also can discover their potentials, especially prioritize the education as their priority in their life. So there is a campaign called Mimi Msichana Najitambua, Elimu Ndio Mpango Mzima. This is it's a very good campaign, and it's a determination of the government, in fact, to assist the girls first to discover their potentials and use their potentials also as contributors to the development of the country. And as you have said, yes, we have been, in fact, hearing about violences of children and especially girls. But comparatively, if we compare the other period, like 70s or 80s or 90s, I think there has been a sensitization of child rights issues. In thousands, 2000, from 2000 up to date, and it has really assisted very much also to reduce violence issues. And not only that, but also it has created, in fact, an awareness among people. And so now we are capable of even tracking, you see, the violences, maltreatments of children, all of and these issues are now being reported, you see, to the media, reported to the police, reported to the ward executive officers. Unlike those days when people are not, in fact, aware of the child of the children's rights. So having these two events, in fact, it has helped very much also to conscientize people that there is something wrong happening somewhere, from the family level up to the community level, at the national level, even the policymakers level also. They need also to understand all these issues. And that's why it has been very important now for the government to say, no, it's enough. We have that plan, a 5-year plan from 2017 up to 2022, and other plans also in other ministries. All of them, in fact, also focusing to empower girls and for them now to understand their potentials. Especially now we are determining and in fact we have decided to industrialize. So we are now looking at the position of a girl in the industrialization era in Tanzania. And in most cases, women have been producers, wood producers, in fact. If you go to the villages, if you go to the communities, these are the people, in fact, who are producing and who are taking care of children. So giving them a space and a priority, in fact, in the industrialization in Tanzania, or it will give us a very, very positive and a good credit, because they understand their values, and they have been always very keen, in fact, since conception, when they are conceiving, they have been very keen to know that, you know, I'm having now something which will contribute towards the development or milestones of achieving good life or good quality of all Tanzanians. So having that notion in their minds and being given the space, definitely there has been some changes also happening in the communities, and so it will in fact lead us into having a very good Tanzanians who are ready to contribute towards development of the country.
All right. It was interesting to read your piece, Deo Moshi, on the Sunday News, the last issue, where you wrote a very interesting piece relating to the the day we celebrate and to the industrialization agenda. Would you like to expand on what?
Yes, let me at least speak with an example. 2 months ago, I was in Moshi, and I was driving from Weka Wildlife College, which is situated in Moshi Rural District, and I was driving towards to Moshi town. And on the way, I met a group of girls from a certain ward school. They had just finished their school, their classes. They were going home, and it was a group of about 10 girls. And I noticed a girl I know, who is the daughter of my friend, and I stopped the car to let that girl get into the car, and I drive her home. Now, to my surprise, all the girls started screaming, saying, "Oh, wait, why are you going to that car? Do you know that person? You shouldn't enter into that car." I stopped. Oh, they said, "Yule baba yangu yule," because her father and me, we are friends.
Yes.
So they all came, and I opened the door. Oh, they said, "Fine." Then the others also got into the car, and I drove away.
You were able to pick 10 of them?
I don't know. I picked 5 of them.
You picked 5
of them.
Yeah.
Now as I was driving, I said, why did you do this? One of them told me is, our biology teacher in this word school has given them a direction that you should not allow a ride in a car of a person that you don't know. So I found that really being an example that if our word schools could at least take that example, it would help. And eventually we are talking about going to the industrialization economy. If we prepare our girls, and if we can use teachers in our word secondary schools and other people who are, when they speak something, they can be heard, that will be very interesting. And I have an example to give here.
Another example.
Another example.
That one, the first one was just
my
as good.
My mother never went to any school. She didn't know how to read or write.
So did my mother.
But she was very intelligent. She would gather and go around and see if this girl remains in the village and there's not enough care, she won't go very far. So if you go from the urban-based area, my sister is staying in Arusha and I'm staying in Dar es Salaam, and you go to the village, and she says, "I think this girl should not be here. She should go to town to take care."
So you should take her.
And then that was a daughter of my young brother. I ended up taking one of the girls and I brought her to Dar es Salaam. Very intelligent girl. The other one refused to come to Dar es Salaam. This year she's having a child.
Oh dear.
Now,
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, collaboration with the Save the Children's Fund and then publish on the Red. But I want to, in connection with what you said, and Deo, I just want to read something which was quoted by the Guardian on Sunday newspaper. It says, 20,000 underage girls are married off illegally each day in Tanzania. You may ask where did they get the data, but I will sum up towards the end. Millions of vulnerable girls will continue to be at risk unless child marriages is tackled head-on. And this was according to the analysis by the World Bank and Save the Children Fund. This was reported in The Guardian on Sunday, 15th to 21 October. This is a startling figure. And then I read somewhere else again, I didn't cite here, that Katavi alone, Katavi is the new region, I think this year or last year, whatever, the number of
Teenage pregnancy.
teenage, it says not
Early
pregnancies, early marriages, because the men don't agree they are teenage, was so high.
48,
48% was it?
yes.
So these are very serious issues when you link with industrialization, you associate with the education and the upbringing of the girls and their role in society. This is a very serious thing. So let me ask UNICEF, that's Jasmika.
Save the children.
Save the Children, sorry, I beg your pardon.
It's fine.
With all the studies, plus Rose, the studies you've done, have you discovered what really encourages, promotes violence against children, early marriages, and early pregnancies in the country?
Various factors. Poverty as an underlying factor, and we all know that. But there are cultural, traditional beliefs. There is also sometimes a parent who feels that if he or she marries off his or her daughter, it's nothing wrong with that, because like if he does that in exchange of maybe 50 cows or 100 cows.
50 cows or maybe even a cow.
Or even a cow, it could be 200 cows. That's fine, that's okay, because by doing that, that act will support the family. So I think that's what other speakers are saying. It's about particular role of each and every institution and particular role of each and every individual. But I think that, you know, once that we really step into this, we need to understand that we have to deal with traditional leaders, we have to deal with religious leaders, we need to understand parents, we need to understand factors that are motivating parents to do what they are doing. We also need to understand the livelihood of those people, the poverty mechanisms that are pushing them to do what they are doing. We need to get very important information from the research pieces that Dr. was mentioning. And we also need to conduct analysis ourselves. And you know, it's like no analysis is a bad one. I think that, you know, even if you produce some very small analysis, it could be something with, you know, relatively small percentage of girls or communities, it's valid, it's good. That has to be validated. We need to go back to communities and go back to parents and see what is that, what is underlying, apart from poverty, what are other factors that are hindering our ability and coping mechanisms of those girls and communities to get out and to actually prevent girls from being part of teenage pregnancy and being part of child marriage.
You know, Dr. Shayo, is early pregnancies so bad? And what is its effect in terms of the girls getting education, in terms of also preventing early marriages, and in order to enhance, promote the role of the girls in society?
Okay, yeah, when these girls get pregnant less than 18 years old, many times they suffer from health problems because their bodies are not mature enough to assume this role. Second, when they get pregnant and they're school girls, it also affects their own academic performance, because now they are forced to become mothers. They have to behave like mothers to look after those babies. They also have to be students, especially where they're allowed to go to school. And most of them, they do aspire. And also, they also have to be children in their homes as well. Because most of these girls who are getting babies young,
when they themselves
they
are
are
babies.
not married, because teenage pregnancy, I noted there are two dimensions. Here we're talking about arranged marriages. So they are small, but they are forced to marry somebody because it's a cultural issue, as correctly said. So
And
they are
income generating.
yeah, it could
More or
be
less.
both. Yeah, more or less. There are some cultures where they marry, and even the girl goes to get a menstruation in that new home. So there are many funny, different experiences which we found in the field. So when these young girls, if I would say so, become pregnant, they suffer from these health risks. They also miss education. They also individually, they face a lot of discrimination, stigma, and low self-esteem because they don't belong anywhere. They go to the adults, they don't belong. They go to the children, they're chased out. So they suffer a lot of problems, which I see them as challenges. And in trying to cope with them, there is also the issue of psychological abuse.
Yes.
So it really brings a lot of problems because they are not mature enough. Now we're talking about industrialization. They cannot even get an opportunity to know what is happening in the country because they are busy looking after this. But in another study which we did about these girls, we discovered that there are those who are raped and they become pregnant at that early age. But where there is good support system in the school, in the home, in the community, which is enabling them, providing the enablers for them to continue with school, some have been able to continue with school even up to graduate level. There are some experiences from girls who shared that, yes, I got pregnant, but the support was there. Others where there is no support, it is misery. And for the majority of these girls, there is no support.
So the
Even
solution here is what?
The
to prevent?
solution is to prevent. If I was to be asked, I actually support the president that it's better to prevent. And the prevention will happen when we empower the girls and the boys on sexuality, to get to know their bodies, how they function, and even how to relate to each other, boys and girls.
The long-term effects of early pregnancy and drop out from school, no further education, all these should be put across to them, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, like we are saying here, when we celebrate this day,
Yes.
we normally sometimes bring those girls. Some have good stories, others are miserable. So when we use these to share the stories, in a way it helps to raise the awareness that this is not good. Even if I'm doing well, but what I went through was hell.
Yes.
Even those who are doing well, they tell you it was not easy, but because of the support. So for me, I would say it's better to prevent. And what the girls, some of them, when you ask them, some do not know about these issues, so they just discover I'm pregnant. And some were saying even if the support is there, they tend to hide. But for pregnancy, you don't hide. Finally,
It
the
will
baby
come out.
will come
Exactly.
out. So prevention is better, and a good prevention system is about education, educating them on the consequences, and try to enable them to avoid getting pregnant. And not only even these teenagers, even I'm teaching at the university, even for these mature girls, combining education and pregnancy, child rearing is
Not
a
easy.
hell. Some are saying, even these mature ones, they are saying they could have performed differently if not because of this child, even not because of this marriage, you know. So combining is really a bit challenging.
How about the men? Then we just focus the girls here in terms of, because it takes two to tango, Rose.
Thank you. At the university, we have a topic on gender and development, where we discuss these issues together with boys and girls, and we empower them on how to balance academics and social life. Because whatever we do, there are some consequences. And I want to share with you, most of the students, they come and say, thank you, Mama, we have not heard this from our parents, we have not been told by anybody, and we are just things are just happening. But with the education we are giving them, I tell you, you come to the university, very few girls are getting married, especially are getting pregnancies while they are studying because of
The
the
education you're
education
giving
we are giving
Okay.
them. So it helps a
Thank you
lot.
very much, Rose. Very quickly.
Yeah, I wanted, in fact, to
No,
react.
not to get that. There's another question because time seems to be getting off. Very quickly, representing the government, try and enlighten us. Does Tanzania respect and promote the right of children in education, health, and the rest?
Yeah, sure.
If not, why?
It is, in fact, it is promoting and it is really respecting. And that's why the education now has been a free. See, it's a free education. Because previously, all these things which are spoken by Dr. Shayo and Jasminka, definitely, previously, parents, in fact, we are afraid of even supporting children to go to school because of poverty. Most of them, they didn't have enough school fees, and so.
But only for the girls.
Yes.
But how about the boys?
Of course, I will come on that. But now, because education is free, it's no way now you can give those reasons. And during this campaign, which has been launched in Tarime, it combines also boys. You see, because without that, it's all in vain if you concentrate on conscientizing girls and women without even engaging men. Because these are the source. Some of them, they are the source, especially the Boda Boda. You see, so during the campaign, in fact, many boys were there, the Boda Boda people, and they promised and vowed even before, and swear before the minister that we know that we are causing the catastrophe to the girls. So we promise you, minister, from today, we shall protect the girls.
That's
so
promise is one thing and effectiveness is
Definitely.
another. Is
Now,
that so?
now we are following up,
Sure.
Yes.
and the campaign, I think it will be, in fact, implemented all over the country to make sure that this information goes to many men as possible. You see, for them to take care of the girls and protect, in fact, the girl child.
Okay. You know the police system, the police force, has what they call the gender desk.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hope that is also helping to,
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
it is really helping.
to be available for cases like this to be handled.
Not
and
only that,
helped.
but also we have child helpline 116, where people also they're reporting all those things.
Where is it based? This
It's in Dar es Salaam, but
where?
of course
But is this part of the ministry?
it
Your
is.
force? Ah,
It
okay.
is part of the ministry.
This is something new. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to, because you were anxious of responding to something with
Yeah, I was
Dr.
no, I was
Shayo
just
said?
trying supporting her that the government understands in fact the importance of involving men, because sometimes we have tried in fact was then to sensitize girls only, but we discovered that no, we are sometimes wasting our time if we don't engage boys and men. You see, and that's why now.
But
the
take the
initiative-
men with the money.
Of course.
They entice these girls.
Yeah, of course.
Poor men like Mush and I who wouldn't do that.
No, in the village, even those who have got no money
Yes.
at all, they are doing that. And that's why it's very important now, not only in urban areas, but also in village areas. We are taking this message to border people, to men in
To
the
adolescents
offices. Yes,
as well.
for adolescents, to tell them that no, we have the reason why we are protecting girls, because they are the mothers of tomorrow and they are the producers also during the industrialization era, which is coming in Tanzania. You see, so
All
it's very
right.
important.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, as I warned you earlier, in these situations, time goes very fast. You can't believe we've already spent over 40 minutes in discussion. We were left with only 10. So for this next 10
Time
minutes
flies.
before we wind up, let me start by going round now. I'll start with you, Deo Mushi. Do you think, or in your view, what are the challenges that lie ahead in order to end the early marriages and the early pregnancies, which seem to be increasing?
I think apart from the education that the doctor there has really insisted, I think there is a need of creating awareness even among men, especially among boys. Because when you talk about this protection, we are leaving men there, young men outside there. We don't like to involve them. Now I think it is the right time we should involve men. And an example of, if you are to go around and see where the border borders park, and we just take one of them and give him his education, invite them to a certain seminar, sensitize them. When they come back, it's my optimistic views that he can influence the others not to do that, not to engage themselves with in casual.
Use their position of driving the border, and some of these girls go to schools very far from home, so that's the only means of transport, and they submit in the end, isn't it?
Yeah. And another thing is, I don't think in Tanzania, the adverts that we have been placing in our TV and radios are not well made. There is only one advert that I remember that was prepared by Thamo, and I think at this point at this particular point, I should really congratulate Thamo. That has really done a lot in speaking about the rights.
Can you remember it? Can you recall it?
Sidanganyeki. That girl, the way she was tough, and she was really showing it.
That should be shown regularly, but I also like that, but I don't see it regularly these days. Yeah.
And another thing I would also like to talk about is, could we have a data of journalists who have been doing very well in writing issues related to children and their rights? We don't have names of, this is a particular journalist I know doing very well. We don't have that.
And reward them.
Yeah, and reward them. In fact, we have a journalist at the Daily News running a program, a column, page 7 every Sunday, and he has been writing that particular column for the past 10 years. I wouldn't like to mention his name, but it has the title, Mind That Child. I wonder who has come and say, this particular person is doing something, and he deserves an award. We all remain silent there.
Maybe from Save the Children. He'll pick it up. Okay, just make up very quickly. What challenges ahead? One or two.
Awareness raising of all of us. You rightly pointed out. Border drivers, I mean, they are actually the highlight of that International Day of the Girl Child, Tarime event. But once when they receive the education, they will be willing to support. They will be willing to act.
Multiply sectors.
They will educate others. And then once when you have that awareness raising, you will have actually a lot of people knowing about the subject. Another issue, coordination. We all have to be well coordinated. Accountability, the third issue. We have to play our part. We have to be responsive.
With all the stakeholders.
All the stakeholders, including you too, Dale and you, Adam.
Yes.
Because you are the ones, because you are man. Okay, because you are the ones who could educate others.
Yes.
People are watching what you are doing,
Yes.
and people are getting education from that.
Yes.
And I think that when these issues become priority, number one priority for Tanzania, we have a good chance to win. Not only this last campaign that the Minister Umi launched, but all our campaigns, because I also remember 2014 Ending Child Marriage campaign of the government of Tanzania. And I think that, all the campaign initiatives, all the advocacy initiatives, everything that we are doing, we have a strong commitment from all the parties.
Yes.
And I think that the momentum, the government support, the momentum is there. What we need to do, we just need to capitalize on that and actually help the girls and the boys.
All right. Yes. Last but not least, Dr. Shayo, do you see, a challenge that you may not be able to succeed, or which will help us to reflect and then achieve this, to reduce your child marriages, early marriages, and early pregnancies?
Yeah, from my research, I also noted that access to basic facilities and services within the schools is a major challenge, especially food.
Okay.
In the villages, when the girls or the boys are sent home to eat and then come back, a lot happens there. Most do not go home. They get somebody to support, and mostly men. They are not rich, but they have something to offer.
And especially in town,
Exactly,
you see chicken and chips.
Exactly, even in town. So the issue of accommodation, if it's sorted, especially at the secondary school level, like we are talking about community secondary schools and what have you, if they can sort that issue
Yes.
and ensure that within that school most of the basic facilities, water, and for the girls issues like sanitary pads, because some are also missing school 4 or 5 days, they're staying somewhere because they are not available in the school. So for me, these are very pertinent issues that we also need to take care of in relation to teenage pregnancy, because some girls, they're just caught into that problem and they get somebody to help. And the last one is about monitoring kids. We as parents getting to know what has happened today, because I'm even reading the newspapers where these girls are just getting some support from any man anyhow, and because we are not talking to our kids, they are sharing the peer effect now. Where did you get this bag? I got it from somebody. Let me take you. It's a man. So quite a number of girls have been trapped into that
Or enticed,
problem.
as it
Yeah,
were, to
yeah.
get into this.
So for me, I would encourage parents to meet more close, talk to their kids about these issues, what is happening, to the changes in their bodies, and also what is happening in the schools.
You know, parents these days don't seem to have enough time because they don't even follow what their kids do in school. They come back. They come back with the homework. They don't know. Early in the morning,
Busy.
both parents go to work. They leave the kids with the mama, with dadas, workers. So you're very right. Well, my panelists, thank you very much for your contribution in discussing these two important days, but particularly the important issues of early marriages and early pregnancies, which seem to be increasing in this country. And the long-term impact, as you have rightly said, can be determined or is already known. I mean, in the area of industrialization, we want women to play a significant role. And as you said, the women are the producers, and their contribution will be immense in order to achieve our industrialization agenda. So thank you very much for that. Viewers, you heard the views of my 4 panelists here. The International Day of the Girl Child and the African Girl Child are important days to mark efforts by the international community as well as African countries, and including Tanzania, to promote the rights of children, especially the girl child. The United Nations welcomes the 2017 theme for the Day of the African Child, that is on accelerating protection, empowerment, and equal opportunities for all children in Africa by 2030. This is related to the Social Development Goals. The Global Partnership to End Child Marriages says the 2017 theme is a reminder of the linkages between the regional, the global agendas on development and the importance of promoting child rights, including addressing child marriages, early pregnancies. Furthermore, it is a stand of it is stated in several UN and AU documents as well as statements that the world 1.1 billion girls as a source of power, energy. Therefore, if Tanzania has to develop and succeed in its industrialization agenda, this should be taken into account and thus work hard to reduce early marriages, early child pregnancies, and to curb violence against children, and particularly the girl child. Viewers, this is all we have for you today. Join us again next Sunday at 21 hours and on Thursday at 15 hours for the repeat program. On behalf of my very able panel, Deo Mushi, Jessica Melona Vandik, Dr. Rose Shayo, Benedict Misami, and my co-worker here at TBC Television Center Crew. Thank you, viewers, and goodbye.